My name is Zachary Fabri. I live and work in Brooklyn. A lot of my practice has been about sight and space, more specifically the body in relationship to a specific context. That context can be cultural, political, or architectural. The exhibition is bookmarked by two performances. One performance is on 35mm black and white. The performance for the camera is a very important part of my practice, and it has been for many years. Me walking around to about 35 different locations in city center Philadelphia, placing my body in front of the lens and performing an action for different amounts of time. And then my assistant would press the shutter once. We would get one chance to get one photo for each action, for each location. I grew up in Miami, Florida. It's very tropical, very humid, very hot. So a lot of my childhood was spent outside. I definitely see a direct relationship on how I spent my time outdoors and the work that I'm making in my studio right now. There's something about these hard rules, the improvisation and chance and maybe even chaos, and how that can open the work up and take me to a place that I could not have calculated or anticipated. In addition to the photographs, there's a video. The piece is called Morning Stutter. I went back and forth from Brooklyn to Philadelphia, and I kind of GPS stamped each location. The performance for the video would not stop and talk and think about these different shots, different angles. All the actions, all the movement is improvised. I'm really interested in the banal and also trying to find wonder in things that are very small. How can I reclaim public space as a site for joy, complexity, and playfulness? As a child, I was quite shy and still am. I remember being crippled because I couldn't move across the room because I felt like people were watching. And that kind of self-consciousness was maddening as a child. Video was a way in which I could use the camera to do anything I wanted because of editing, because of the lens, because of the permission of this tool in the body. Once I started to do that, something clicked in an odd way. And so that kind of self-consciousness became a kind of a sensitivity, something that made me feel shy and immobile. It became a way for me to have a sixth sense of the way that I can feel people watching me. I've been able to kind of use that in my work. When I was commissioned to make the work for public space, my first thought was, I feel vulnerable and I don't feel safe in public space. And that was a really important thing for me to kind of flesh out in the work. And so Morning Stutter quite directly points to so much police violence and murders of Black people in public space. And the title refers to this inability to kind of move through grieving. The stutter is this kind of like interruption or something that kind of stops and starts again. Movement and the dance and the choreography that you see in the video, it tries to open up that stutter. It tries to allow a fluency. I'm not interested in performing for an audience because it's research, it's a practice, it's an investigation. There has to be something that I don't know, that I'm like reaching for, pushing for. It creates an interest for me to then further investigate this. The piece that I created specifically for this exhibition for 2022 is called The Memory Foam of George Floyd. I was curious about using that title in two ways. One way, I was thinking that my brain hasn't been working very good lately. There's a reference to brain fog in terms of COVID. I pride myself on having like the best memory, but I was maybe thinking about memory foam in terms of so many events happening simultaneously and maybe my inability to kind of recall very specific things. And so I was thinking how trauma affects growth in your memory and your brain. Whenever a weight is pressed against memory foam and then removed, memory foam quite literally returns to form. Collectively, how do we return to form? Or can we return to form? And what if when the physical weight is lifted, the trauma still remains? And that was important to think about even how George Floyd died, because the weight of the police officer on his back and his inability to breathe on the hard street, like after that weight was lifted, that trauma still remains in all of us in a collective way. What are the tools that we have or don't have that allow us to kind of properly grieve and mourn and experience trauma, experience sadness, but then move through it in a way that we don't forget it and move on, but we learn from it. And so we are richer as a group, as a species. The entire project was informed by Toni Morrison's novel, Beloved. And that novel kind of creates the tone and texture and kind of a historical gravity for the entire exhibition to rest on. In the novel, the mother kills her child because she feels that death is freedom and slavery is worse than death. That kind of Gothic quality was important, and that informed the look and the feel of the entire exhibition. One of the text pieces that I made uses a quote taken directly from the novel. You don't need to know exactly what happened in the novel. There's kind of an essence and maybe like a conversation or a call and response to this book and then to an actual political occurrence in our lives. It speaks to the possibility of moving forward. We are more than the past. And the text speaks to the possibility of tomorrow, the agency that we all have to kind of create change. I often use humor as an entry point, as a way to kind of allow the viewer access the work a little bit. Sometimes that humor can be dark, it can be cynical, ironic, and that's where it becomes more strategic and pointed. Like, no matter what's happening to me or the world or people around me, and it's not about hope. I don't think about hope. I don't even know what the word hope means. For me, it's about work and change. And so for me, optimism means just trying.